time for duels.
Roughly 1,200 years ago, the Turians were invited to join the Citadel Council to fulfill the role of galactic peacekeepers. The Turians have the largest fleet in Citadel space, and they make up the single largest portion of the Council's military forces. As their territory and influence has spread, the Turians have come to rely on the Solarians for military intelligence and the Asari for diplomacy. Despite a somewhat colonial attitude towards the rest of the galaxy, the ruling hierarchy understands they would lose more than they would gain if the other two races were ever removed. Turians come from an autocratic society that values discipline and possesses a strong sense of personal and collective honor. There is lingering animosity between Turians and humans over the First Contact War of 2157, which is known as the Relay 314 incident to the Turians. Officially, however, the two species are allies, and they enjoy civil, if cool, diplomatic relations.
I find Turian society very fascinating because of how militaristic it is, and the hierarchy, and also the fact of how they interact with humans. You know, after the Relay 314 incident, as they call it, and you'll see that a lot of Turians are distrusting of humans, but I don't think, honestly, as much as a lot of humans are distrusting of Turians. And what's interesting is, well, for example, the Normandy is a human-Turian collaboration. Like I said, they enjoy civil, if cool, diplomatic relations. And I actually think that Shepard will be a huge... Okay, well, I say that, but it's really only a select few Turians that will... Mostly Garrus that will actually, you know, be on Shepard's side of things, humanity's side of things, which is interesting if you think about that. Shepard is kind of the glue that keeps a lot of races kind of together throughout the series, if you kind of think about it. It's really inspiring. And, I don't know, it's just interesting how the Turians deal with that whole thing, and the humans as well. But we see more of the Turian side of things than the human, I think. Just because of the fact that it's focusing on the whole, you know, there's all this... Except for, there's all this other than humanity in the galaxy, and we're among them now, kind of a thing. Anywho, continuing onward.
The Geth are a humanoid race of networked AIs. They were created by the Quarians 300 years ago as tools of labor and war. When the Geth showed signs of self-evolution, the Quarians attempted to exterminate them. The Geth won the resulting war. This example has led to legal, systematic repression of artificial intelligences in galactic society. The Geth possess a unique distributed intelligence. An individual has rudimentary animal instincts, but as their numbers and proximity increase, the apparent intelligence of each individual improves. In groups, they can reason, analyze situations, and use tactics, as well as any organic race. Geth space is located at the trailing end of the Perseus Arm, beyond the lawless Terminus systems. The Perseus Veil, an obscuring dark nebula of opaque gas and dust, lies between their space and the Terminus systems.
The Geth are a uniquely horrifying concept when it comes to the whole concept of AI, and we really get that hammered in Mass Effect 2, I'd say, when we visit the Quarians, and, well, let's just say there's only 17 million Quarians left. I'm pretty sure there used to be a lot more than that. And they also, their planet was destroyed. Guess who did that? Or what did that? The Geth. Because the Geth are fucking smart, because there's a lot of them in one place. Good job, Quarians. It's not mentioned here, by the way, but just in case any of y'all don't know, the Quarians made the Geth for manual labor, and then the Geth got too smart, and, you know, the whole AI rebellion thing that tends to happen in fiction when AI gets too smart. Anywho.
After the Geth secure a location, they round up and impale dead and living bodies on mechanical spikes.
Oof.
The spikes rapidly transform these victims into withered husks, extracting water and trace minerals, and replacing them with cybernetics. The cybernetics reanimate the lifeless flesh and tissue, transforming the bodies into mindless killing machines. Some Alliance soldiers refer to the husk-generating spikes as dragon's teeth, a reference to the mythological berserkers who sprang up from the earth wherever the teeth of the dragon Eris were planted. Dragon's teeth and husks bear little resemblance to other pieces of Geth technology. No one is sure why a synthetic race would bother to drain the minuscule amount of recoverable resources from organic corpses, though the value of reusing them as shock troops is obvious.
So yeah, this is another reason the Geth are terrifying. And not just Geth, but it's actually insinuated later that the Reapers are responsible for the fucking horrifying technology that these spikes are. So basically, they impale humans through the goddamn chest, which is horrifying enough. And in the process of killing them that way, probably slowly, though maybe not. It might be an insta-kill, but I think it depends on where exactly it pierces them. But it turns them into technological zombies, essentially. So that's not fun. So yeah, husks are terrifying, and yeah, it's kind of sad to think about what their final moments must be like before they become this mindless killing machine for killing other humans or whatever else the Geth want to point them at. Really terrifying, man.
The Citadel is an ancient deep space station, presumably constructed by the Protheans. Since the Prothean extinction, numerous species have come to call the Citadel home. It serves as the political, cultural, and financial capital of the galactic community. To represent their interests, most species maintain embassies on the Presidium, the Citadel's inner ring. The Citadel Tower in the center of the Presidium holds the Citadel Council chambers. Council affairs often have far-reaching effects on the rest of the galactic community. 5 arms, known as the wards, extend from the Presidium. Their inner surfaces have been built into cities, populated by millions of inhabitants from across the galaxy. The Citadel is virtually indestructible. If attacked, the station can close its arms to form a solid, impregnable shell. For as long as the station has existed, an enigmatic race called the Keepers has maintained it.
So the Citadel is a really interesting thing. You'd think normally space stations were built by the civilizations that used them, but this, I mean, super mega spoilers here, but most of you probably are fine with those anyway, and if you're not, you shouldn't be watching this, frankly. The Citadel was actually made by the Reapers, not the Protheans. It's even older than the it's even older than the Protheans are, because the Reapers essentially have been doing this for thousands and thousands of years. And I'm not sure if the actual origins of the Reapers are ever really explained. Apparently, Mass Effect 3 veers off course with the whole narrative, but so I don't know if that's ever really actually explained. But words and things and stuff and Yeetle. But yeah, the Citadel has been used as the center from way of galactic culture from way before the Protheans, and it's very clear that the Reapers put this here to be like, hey, this is a really nice place to live on, you know, and have your center government at. But guess what? It's also rigged specifically for us to go take it over whenever we basically want. And that's what happens at the end of this game. Good job. Anyway,
Spectres are agents from the Office of Special Tactics and Reconnaissance, and answer only to the Citadel Council. They are elite military operatives, granted the authority to deal with threats to peace and stability in whatever way they deem necessary. They operate independently or in groups of 2 or 3. Some are empathetic peacekeepers, resolving disputes through diplomacy. Others are cold-blooded assassins, ruthlessly dispatching problem individuals. All get the job done one way or another, often operating outside the bounds of galactic law. The Spectres were founded after the Solarians joined the Council. For many years they operated in secrecy as backroom problem solvers. Only after the Krogan rebellions did their activities become publicized. Assignment of a Spectre is less contentious than a military deployment, but makes it clear that the Council is concerned about a situation.
Yeah, so Spectres are a really interesting concept. It's kind of like, your special tasks, groups in real life and stuff on steroids. They essentially have the authority to break laws in order to get their jobs done, and yeah, that freedom is why Saren is able to just kind of do what he's doing here, because, I'm not sure if it's ever really 100% clarified as to why Saren, or how Saren came across his plan and what he's doing here. Actually, the why does become apparent. I don't know if the how actually does 100%. I think maybe Sovereign just indoctrinates him, or he finds Sovereign out in space or something. I don't know. His ship, Sovereign, the Reaper. But yeah, so Spectres are really interesting, and we'll be seeing more of them. Spectres are clearly a very important sort of general, thing in this game, or thing in this galaxy, or a really important kind of like tone setter in this galaxy. I don't know, how do I explain it? Spectres are clearly, they naturally become the talk of everyone whenever they're assigned to a place. There's a Spectre? Oh, they're doing Spectre things. Oh, Spectres. Regard this as Spectre. Like, later you start to realize that Spectres are extremely like, oh god, the council means business, is what they say when they send what people say when they send a Spectre. And I don't know, just the whole concept behind Spectres is just awesome and badass to me. It makes a lot of sense to have some kind of thing like this. When we become a Spectre later, we start to really get a lot of the vibe about, the preconceptions about Spectres, and also just kind of how they generally operate. And I don't know if we really meet many more Spectres throughout the series, if any more, other than Saren and Nihilus, rip Nihilus, but in fact, I'm pretty sure they could do a lot more with the Spectre thing. And also, than they did, and also, like, the whole operating in groups of 2 or 3. I'm not sure if operating in groups of 2 or 3 is really actually represented in the game at all. Like, there's Nihilus working with us, and there's Saren working with Captain Anderson in the past. We learned that later. But I've never actually... I don't remember, though I might come across it throughout this course of this very thorough playthrough of the entire trilogy, of an instance of 2 or more Spectres working together. In fact, if they don't do that for the whole series, I'm wondering why they put that line there. Maybe they planned for that to happen, but I don't think we really get a lot of knowledge on other Spectres throughout the series, which I think is kind of disappointing. I'd rather them do that, and if I made a cool concept like a Spectre in my work of fiction, you better guarantee I'm going to use the butt sex out of it. Anywho, I don't know why I keep, using the word butt sex to replace the word ass, which, probably makes people question my sexuality, but I am bi, so that checks out. Anyway, continuing onward.
The Systems Alliance is an independent supranational government representing the interests of humanity as a whole. The Alliance is responsible for the governance and defense of all extrasolar colonies and stations. The Alliance grew out of the various national space programs as a matter of practicality. Sol's planets had been explored and exploited through piecemeal national efforts. The expense of colonizing entire new solar systems could not be met by any one country. With humans knowing that alien contact was inevitable, there was enough political will to jointly fund an international effort. Still, the Alliance was often disregarded by those on Earth until the First Contact War. While the national governments dithered and bickered over who should lead the effort to liberate Shanxi, the Alliance fleet struck decisively. Post-war public approval gave the Alliance the credibility to establish its own parliament and become the galactic face of humanity.
It's interesting because the Systems Alliance is a really unique entity, of which at least the scale and scope of this doesn't really exist. We've got organizations like NATO and etc., but family stuff again. Like I was saying, the scope and scale of something like the Systems Alliance isn't known to humanity at this point in actual real world history right now. At this point in Earth being Earth, you know what I mean, and the modern day is what I meant. But I don't know. It's an interesting concept, and it does make sense. It's a government that arose out of an idea of necessity, and it's very, international because of the nature of the sheer expense and collaboration needed in space travel. And it gained its sheer power from the world's governments recognizing, hey, these people know what they're doing after the liberation of Shanxi. So, yeah, it's really interesting. I like this. I like the background behind the Alliance. It's a very interesting concept, and we see that the Alliance is really the only human entity that really has a lot of sway, except for a few human corporations here in space, at least from my current knowledge, my current memory right now. My current memory, I didn't need to say right now.
Combat hard suits use a dual-layer system to protect the wearer. The inner layer consists of fabric armor with kinetic padding. Areas that don't need to be flexible, such as the chest or shins, are reinforced with sheets of lightweight, ablative ceramic. The outer layer consists of automatically generated kinetic barriers. Objects traveling above a certain speed will trigger the barrier's reflex system and be deflected, provided there is enough energy left in the shield's power cell. Armored hardsuits are sealable to protect the wearer from extremes of temperature and atmosphere. Standard equipment includes an onboard mini-frame and a communications, navigation, and sensing suite. The mini-frame is designed to accept and display data from a weapon's smart targeting system to make it easier to locate and eliminate enemies.
Yeah, so we start to get a lot of the information behind the body armor and why it looks all lit up and techy, and it also kind of, in lore, explains some of the interface mechanisms that we have, which I always love me some diegetic UI.
Kinetic barriers, more commonly called shields, provide protection against most mass accelerator weapons. Whether on a starship or a soldier's suit of armor, the basic principle remains the same. Kinetic barriers are repulsive mass effect fields, projected from tiny emitters. These shields safely deflect small objects traveling at rapid velocities. This affords protection from bullets and other dangerous projectiles, but still allows the user to sit down without knocking away their chair. The shielding afforded by kinetic barriers does not protect against extremes of temperature, toxins, or radiation.
So it's interesting. Like I said, the whole kinetic barrier idea is very interesting. I believe, see, it shows Shepard here hiding behind what looks like one of the Geth's kinetic barrier projector things that you sometimes have to fight against. Have to shoot down before you can kill some Geth, or shoot around, or what have you. Or flank, or whatever you end up doing with that. Once again, really cool technology. It's interesting how temperature, toxins, radiation all are not affected, sadly, by them. It's just, for some reason, it seems to... I mean, it was probably designed specifically, to protect against energy weapons fire, and so that's what it does. it probably... I mean, I'm guessing there's some sort of tech magic that basically explains away why, things like toxins and stuff hurt you. It's basically, I think this is honestly another one of those diegetic, I guess, like gameplay story combination things where there's a reason for the fact that that toxins, temperature, and radiation can hurt you in this game. It's the reason why it's really dangerous to be out of your Mako on some planets, for example, and also to get hit by toxic, like acid attacks and stuff. So very interesting. Welcome back, frienderitos. Got some tea right here, a little bit of a snackle. Apologize if you're not too fond of the sound of nomming and dranking, but I'd just rather be consuming things than not while I'm recording this. Apologies, but let's see here. I'm just going to be continuing the Codex, reading through the secondary entries because they're not voiced, and also giving my supplementary commentary on such. So let's go. Our history as Ada Shepherd. I'm going to basically be transmuting every your into her to keep immersion in my particular Mass Effect canon. Both of her parents were in the Alliance military. Her childhood was spent on ships and stations as they transferred from posting to random cough. Let me grab some water. Where's my water? There it is. To posting. Following in your parents' footsteps, you enlisted at the age of 18. One of your first missions was an expedition to investigate Akuz, a lush world on the outskirts of Alliance space that had suddenly dropped out of contact. Arriving on the surface, your patrol found the settlement intact, but there were no survivors. At nightfall, the Thresher Moth struck. Mindless abominations of teeth and tentacles rose from beneath the earth. Constant gunfire couldn't drown out the shrieks of your fellow soldiers as they were dragged down to a gruesome death. 50 Marines died on Akuz. You were the only one to make it back to the landing zone alive. A monument on the planet commemorates the massacre, grim reminder of the price humanity must pay as they spread throughout the stars. I've already I do believe at least, touched on, how both of these things affected her, but essentially they make her very, amiable to new people, very, also, well-rooted in both military and diplomatic affairs and how to go about them well and that sort of thing. And also, she really hates getting people killed accidentally, like poor Jenkins, and she really tries her best to keep her people as safe as she can, while keeping in mind the nature of war, sadly. So, Citadel and Galactic Government. Citadel Station, statistics. I'm not going to read all these numbers, because I don't even understand a lot of them. But, let's just kind of read this top blurb here. Although the Citadel is equipped with Mass Effect generating element 0 cores, most of the gravity on the station is generated by the centrifugal force of rotation. And Humanity and Systems Alliance military jargon. A lot of these are actual real-life military terms. I feel like definitely some of them are made in universe, though, but correct me if I'm wrong. Ashore. When a ship's crew leaves the vessel, they are ashore. Though normally used regarding planets, it can refer to boarding a space station. That was probably a Navy term, too, though, in real life. I'm not sure. I don't really know about real-life navies, but if anyone knows that, let me know. Like yay or nay on that. Away. When a ship releases its equipment tethering to a space station or service dock, it is away. Question. Is away when they release the anchor or not? Question is, are all of these transmutable to Navy? Because I feel like they could be, though of course, like I said, I don't know. Aye. I know this one is. The proper way... I know this one is also real life. The proper way to acknowledge an order. If told to attack, the correct response is aye, sir. If asked, are you proud to be a Marine, the correct response is yes, sir. or yes, or aye, ma'am, in Ada's case, and other female officers, of course. Just kind of wanted to put that there just because it's not there, and it is true. ASAP, pronounced ASAP, an acronym of as soon as possible, which is used a lot by a lot of people, including me, outside the military and in. Belay, stop, cease. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure this is just a word that is used elsewhere, but I wonder if it came from the military in real life. Let me know, friendos. Bridge, the navigation center of a spacecraft where the steering is done. Captain's mast. Non-judicial disciplinary proceedings by unit commanders. CIC, Combat Information Center, the command center of a spacecraft. The CIC is filled with sensor displays to make sense out of the chaos of combat. Our CIC is on our second floor. Is on the same floor as the bridge in our ship, and it has it's where we go to the map. It's very, very cool. DC, damage control, the containment and repair of damage to a spacecraft. ECM, electronic countermeasures used to avoid enemy sensors from passive emissions masking to active jamming. EVA, extravehicular activity. Time spent in a pressure suit outside of a vehicle, spacecraft, or station. Flank. The flank is the side of a military formation. Since the soldiers are facing elsewhere, an enemy that can attack on the flank can often turn it or roll it up. I don't really know what turn it or roll it up even means, but if anyone else has insight into that, I'd like to know. I would like to comment about that. That'd be cool. FNG, freaking new guys. It's probably more like fucking, considering those quotation marks around freaking. A derisive term for inexperienced personnel. RIP. Groundside, the surface of a planet. Helmsman, the crew member who pilots a spacecraft. Radar, light amplified detection and ranging. An active sensor that bounces lasers off an object to determine its bearing and distance. LiDAR has sufficient resolution that the data can be reconstructed into an image. So it's like radar, but like super like technological, like sci-fi radar, man. Anyway, shore party. Spacecraft crew sent ashore on official business. Silent running. An old submariner's term used aboard the Normandy to denote when stealth systems are active. SITREP. Abbreviation of Situation Report. An evaluation of the current military situation. Spacer. Someone who has spent most of their life in space. Like Ada. XO. Executive Officer. The second in command of an Alliance warship. Also Ada. As well. And others as well, of course. Actually, Presley is XO right now. Actually, wait, is he? Oh no, we're XO right now. We're actually going to be captain, and then our XO will be Presley. Anywho, Executive Officer of the Second Command of an Alliance warship. The XO is responsible for administrative and personnel matters. And the Alliance timeline. So this is a nice little detail of like, okay, so we're in early 2000s. This starts in, the latter half of this century we're currently in. In fact, it starts on a pretty nice year, 2069. So let's see where humanity's at in 2069. Giggity. Armstrong Outpost at Shackleton Crater becomes the first human settlement on Luna. It is formally founded on July 24, the 100th anniversary of the first lunar landing. 2103. Lowell City in Eos Casma becomes the first human settlement on Mars. Is Eos Casma a real place on Mars? Let me know, friendos. 2137. Eldfell Ashland Energy Corporation demonstrates helium-3 fuel extraction from the atmosphere of Saturn. 2142. I'm pretty sure helium-3 is another in-universe, creation that's not actually tied to real science, kind of like the mass relays, but don't quote me on that. If you know otherwise, again, let me know, friends. 2142. Construction of Gagarin Station, Jump Zero, which is where Caden mentioned he was... Actually, I don't know if he's mentioned it yet, but he mentions it later at least. Caden ended up on Jump Zero as a kid because that's where they basically put biotic children in order to train them to use their biotic abilities. And to not have them be out of control. Begins beyond the orbit of Pluto. 2148. Prospectors discover the Prothean ruins at Prometheus Planum on Mars. 2149. Translation of Prothean data leads humans to the Charon mass relay. Systems Alliance founded to coordinate exploration and colonization of extrasolar worlds. 2151. A shipping accident at Singapore International Spaceport exposes downwind communities to containers of dust form element 0. Alliance begins construction of Arcturus Station. 2152. Roughly 30% of the children born in Singapore after element 0 exposure suffer from cancerous growths. Oof. Systems Alliance begins settlement of Earth's first extrasolar colony world, the planet Demeter. 254. Commander Shepard is born. By the way, she would be about 29, I do believe, and we'll see why at the end, because it shows what year it currently is. 2155. Systems Alliance occupies completed portions of Arcturus Station as a headquarters. 2156. Some children of Singapore exhibit minor telekinetic abilities. 2157. Turians encounter human explorers. First Contact War. Occupation and liberation of the human colony of Shang-Chi. 2158. Humans learn potential biotics. An international effort to track element 0 exposures begins. Roughly 10% of exposed children show some level of biotic ability. 2160. Systems Alliance Parliament formed. 2165. Humans establish embassy on Citadel. 2170. Batarian slavers attack the Alliance colony of Mindor. 2176. Skillian Blitz. Pirates and slavers attack Elysium, the human capital, and Skillian Verge. 2177. Thresher Maws devour the Alliance colony of Kuz. 2178. In retaliation for the Skillian Blitz, an Alliance fleet wipes out an army of slavers on the moon of Torvin. 2183. Current date. Like I said, 2164, right? 54. 54, 64, 74. Actually, wait. Hold on a second. 54 to 64. 64 to 74. 74 to 80. Oh, no, yeah, that checks out. 54 to 64. 74. Yeah, okay, so my math is not great. I am autistic, and part of I'm very slow when it comes to math. I know a lot of autistic people are actually fast when it comes to it, but that's just, the spectrum is that broad. A lot of people don't get that. Regardless. But yeah, 2183, yeah, she'd be 29. If I'm wrong still, I would not be surprised. Let me know, friendos, but yeah, she'd be 29. That makes a lot of sense for a Marine that's, at this point in her career where she can be a commander, she'd have to at least be late 20s, I'd say. And I bet that's the early end. Although I really don't know much about military. Most of what I know from my military is from my dad, who used to be in the Air Force before I was born. But anyway. Whew. Communications. Real-time communication is possible thanks to networks of expensive mass relay comm buoys that can daisy chain a transformation via layers. Okay. Also, I just remembered that I didn't think to actually point this out before. Some of these entries are not automatically in your codex at the beginning of the game. They're only added through investigating little points you highlight, and we'll come across others later during normal gameplay, and I'll be sure to point them out for those who might not know what I'm talking about, but they give you XP, and they also give you these codex entries. So some of these, including, I think, this one, you get from those instead of just having them. But anyway, continuing on. By the way, I really like the interesting implications of this and how they basically justify having, instant communication like we have via our phones these days, through space. It's pretty interesting how they justify the ability to do that, because space is a lot of like between planets and stuff. That's a lot of distance. Comm buoys are maintained in patterns built outward from each mass relay. The buoys are little more than a cluster of primitive miniature mass relays. Each individual buoy is connected to a partner on another buoy in the network, forming a corridor of low-mass space. Tight beam communications lasers are piped out through these tubes of FTL space, allowing virtually instantaneous communication to anywhere on the network. The networks connect across regions by communications lasers through the mass relays. With this system, the only communications delay is the light lag between the source or destination and the closest buoy. So long as all parties remain within half a light second, 150,000 kilometers, of buoys, seamless real-time communications are possible. That's a lot of distance. That's a lot of range, man. That's awesome. Since buoys are maintained in all traveled areas, most enjoy unlimited instant communication. Ships only suffer communications lag when operating off established deep space routes, around uninhabited outer system gas giants and other unsettled areas. During wartime, comm buoy networks are the first target of attack. Once the network is severed, it can take anywhere from weeks to years to get a message out of a contested system. In systems where a buoy network has not yet been built or has been destroyed, rapid communication means ferrying information through high-speed courier ships and unmanned data drones. Very interesting. Weapons, armor, and equipment. Our last little piece of Codex for now, friendos. The development of practical manufacturing omni-tools allows modern militaries a great deal of flexibility in equipment loadouts. A vast number of field modification kits or upgrades are available for common equipment such as weapons, armor, omni-tools, biotic amps, and even grades. And this is the in-lore justification, as I've been kind of talking about, for the fact that you have your upgrades in gameplay to your weapons. I always love when games explain this stuff instead of it just being a game thing. It adds immersion. I like immersion in my video games. That's why I play RPGs. I love the immersion they provide when they do that. A lot of times especially the Japanese variety, tend not to try to provide that immersion, in my experience. But, I tend to find those as more fun games anyway, than super immersive games. But some Japanese games are very immersive to me, but we'll get to a few of those on the channel for sure. Stuff like Persona 5, actually, which Persona 5 Royal I will be doing one of these days. Anywho, an upgrade kit typically consists of less than a dozen unique parts and an optical storage disk. When loaded into an Omni-tool, the OSD provides all technical specifications required to manufacture the tools and additional parts necessary to install the upgrade onto another piece of equipment. Assembly is typically modular, and installation can be completed in less than a minute. Since Omni-tools are designed to use common battlefield salvage materials such as plastics, ceramics, and light metals, rendered into semi-molten Omni-gel for quick use, it is quite possible for a talented soldier carrying upgrade kits to customize gear on the battlefield to fit the current tactical situation. Very neato. Save it, SOA. And that is enough for the Codex for now, and in the next episode we will continue our journey. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe and all that stuff. And